Yeah. Well, I think as you all know, today I sent an email communication to the entire CWU community, all the faculty, all the staff, all the students, letting them know that on tomorrow at the CWU Board of Trustee meetings, I will, and I actually have already done this, I've given the Board of Trustees a letter that indicates my intent to step down from the CWU presidency July 31st, 2021. So roughly 17 months from now. This announcement is a little bit earlier than is normal. Usually, presidents make this announcement somewhat later in the time frame that I'm doing it. I'm doing it to give the Board of Trustees and the university community the greatest possible amount of time to conduct the thorough search for my successor. So I didn't want that to be a rushed activity. I wanted it to be a thorough, thoughtful, deliberate, and of course successful transition. And that's the reason I'm doing it at this time. And with that said, I'll open myself up to any questions you might have.
What prompted you to make this decision initially to retire?
Well, you know, it's always been my plan to retire in July of 2021. You always look at if it's sometimes called conditions on the ground, increasingly is what you hear in the national discussion for making any specific decision. But, you know, I've been here for 11 years. It'll be 12 and a half years when I do step away from this office. That's a long time in the life of a university, and it's actually quite a long tenure in terms of national average for a president. And I think the conditions at Central Washington University are right for a transition. We recently went through, the university recently went through a very thorough accreditation process. And the outcome of that accreditation process is that Central Washington University is an excellent university with an outstanding learning environment. And the words that the accreditors it kind of concluded with is that the university is on the cusp of greatness. So we've been talking to the Board of Trustees, the faculty, staff, and students. What's it going to take? What are those efforts to move from excellence to true national status? And I think we know what those are, but it's going to take 10 or 15 years for all of the pieces to come together to be that premier institution that we know Central can be and that we want Central to be. So I have to ask myself, do I want to work for 15 more years? Am I the person that's going to move that last step? That last step's a big step. It's sometimes called a big lift. And you know, I said no. I think it's time. I think it's the right time for me to. I've contributed what I can contribute, and it's the right time for me to open a pathway for someone else to come in and make that move.
If you can maybe touch on the accomplishments you made throughout your tenure here, and also the challenges.
Yeah, and I want to. I'm not going to call them. I'm going to start right out, just kind of modifying your question if I can. I don't really think of them as my accomplishments. I think of them the university's accomplishments, because there's, you know, the reality is we're a complex organization with 12,000 students, 1,600 staff and faculty members. So I'm just one of those individuals. So it really is a community effort. It's a team effort. We all have to agree on the direction that we're going, and we all have to push in that direction. Some of the things we have been able to achieve as a community that I'm particularly proud of, and it really starts out with a challenge. I arrived here in January of 2009, which was just the kickoff, if you will, for what we now call the Great Recession. It was really difficult financial situation that I stepped into. And we were able to to congeal, to come together as a community. And we were able to address the challenges that we had. A 30% budget cut from the state in each of two successive years. I mean, that's a huge blow to the university. We had to raise tuition dramatically in those years. So students had to be willing to cough up, if you will, to pay, to contribute to the solution for the university in the absence of the state. It took a real commitment of everybody to make sure that the value was there for the student experience. And I think we were able to do that. And I think the way we did it, we were able to do that without significant layoff, without significant degradation of programs, because we all kind of pitched in together as a community. And I'm really proud of the way we reacted. I think we came out of that recession stronger than we went in, even though we were losing so much revenue at the time. At the same time, we called upon our donors to reach out, our alumni for the most part, to reach out and give generously to the university. And they've been doing that. The last 4 years, each year, we have doubled our annual giving to the university. And that's a commitment that extends well beyond me. That's a commitment that not just the university committee, but the very broad Wildcat family has made to the university. We have, the legislature has seen fit to spend about $350 million of state capital investment in the university, more than any other university has received. So very proud of our physical infrastructure that we've been able to do. We are one of the top growing, I think we're the 47th fastest growing university in the United States. All of this is a result of the changes that we have made to the university, the commitment of our faculty and staff, and the value that our students believe they are getting out of their experience at Central Washington University. And of course, you all know, because you all are in the business of communication, word of mouth is a really powerful marketing tool, right? So if one student comes and has a good experience, they go home and they say, boy, it's really good at Central to the younger classes. Those classes come and it gets that ball rolling, and it's still rolling. We have in the process, I think as a university, we have learned to trust one another, and we have learned that by working together we can achieve a lot more than we can working individually. And by each other, that goes alumni, legislators, foundation board, boards of trustees, student governance, the whole group that makes up this complex organization. That's what I think in fact, if all of those things, I think what I am most proud of is the way that the community has come together.
What are some of the qualities that you and the Board of Trustees are going to be looking for?
Well, yeah, I'm going to modify that question because I won't be looking for my successor, but the Board of Trustees will be looking for that successor, along with this community, this campus community that I have talked about. They will ask me what I think, and I will tell them, but it'll be on them. It's their decision, not my decision. What the qualities of the next person is. I think the analysis of that excellence to great, right? That unwillingness to accept good enough, the constant striving for what's better. I say in my letter to the community, we should always remember that we need to be better tomorrow than we are today. Never saying this is good enough. It's always what can we do? How can we do either more, or how can we do more better than we are currently doing it? And I think that's the quality that is at least most important to me. And there's another one, and that parallels that, and that is an absolute commitment to educational excellence. That we're seeing in the country, I believe, a questioning of the value of higher education. I mean, you all read it in the media outlets that you read. Is a college education worth it any longer? And for me, the answer is absolutely yes, it is. I mean, if you look at the at the raw numbers, you're going to make more money, you're going to live longer, you're going to live healthier if you have a college education than if you don't. But there's also the value as a person that you gain in understanding and the enlightenment. You become a more responsible citizen. You're able to analyze information better. I mean, you're just a more well-rounded person if you are well educated. And I think the president of any higher ed institution has to more than believe that. It has to be part of their core being. And so we're going to look for someone who strives for excellence, but in a sense of excellence in higher education. And that's going to be the key. It will always be the key. Yes, sir.
Are you staying in Ellensburg?
Of course I'm staying in Ellensburg. I am, in addition to being the university president, I am a faculty member in the Department of Communication. It's my expectation, my intent, that and I'm a tenured member of the faculty, so it's my intent to, when I step away from this position, to go over and teach communication. Say that last part again. I'm sorry, I didn't.
To create relationships with the community in Central Washington and provide more access to students.
Boy, we do a lot, and that's a very good question, because that's been part of that enrollment growth. Students just don't appear at your door. They appear at your door because they trust that they really trust in you. I mean, you all have been students, and you know that students spend a lot of money on their education. Many students go into debt for their education, so they have to trust you. They have to trust that they're going to get what they came for, and we all know that trust is built on relationships. So some of the things that we have done. First off, Central is one of the first and I believe the best institution in being in communities. We have 7 learning centers, 4 on the west side of the Cascades and 3 on this side of the Cascades. So we are located on this side of the mountains, on the eastern side of the mountains. We are located in Yakima, in Moses Lake, and in Wenatchee. So those become, of course, and in Ellensburg. So those become Central's communities right from the beginning. We have faculty and staff and students that are going to college at Central Washington University in those locations. We also have a number of outreach programs. All of my staff is asked to participate in civic organizations, whether it's Rotary Club, whether it's Future Farmers, whatever their interests might be, but to get out there and be part of the community. We talk, and it's an old cliche, and I wish it doesn't exist, but we talk about town and gown relationships. If you think of the communities that surround us, they are for the most part smaller communities. So we feel a responsibility to be shepherds of the place that we are in. So we want to get out and be part of the communities that we are living in, and we live in this community, right? I live in Ellensburg. I'm going to live in Ellensburg. I may, when I retire, move closer to the hiking areas up in the Roslyn area, but that's to be determined. I have a wife that will be part of that decision-making process. But we're going to stay in this. This is our home. This is our community, and I would say that's everybody. We have some special programs that reach out to K-12 students. Central runs the largest sports camps in the state. So we literally have thousands from cheerlead squad to football to volleyball to softball, basically all the sports that are played in high school and continue on in college, we do camps for. We bring our music program is probably the #1 draw in the state for high school and elementary school music. We bring in literally tens of thousands of K-12 students into our music program. Our science programs do the same thing. So this is a very active campus with bringing community members too. And then, of course, in developing those relationships with the teachers, we're out there in the communities helping set up those agreements.
Lastly, if you could touch on the governor's proposal for that $3 million facility upgrade that is set to be part of the budget.
Yeah, that's very important to Central Washington University. One of the, as I think most of you know, we had an unfortunate event on our campus this past year, in which we thought we had an active shooter on campus. An active shooter was announced on our campus. There never was a shooter on campus, but it was unlike a drill in that we thought there was. So we responded with all the energy and the vigor of a real event. Fortunately, there was nothing to respond to, but it was an incredibly productive learning experience, probably more than a kind of, if you will, a normal training exercise would do when you know it's not really real. And one of the things we found is that our security camera operations, there were parts of the campus we couldn't see. There were parts of the campus we couldn't hear because of if you've walked around our campus, you know we have those, we call them blue light towers that are, phones that you can talk to, and there's some of those are active with cameras so that we can see. We had dark areas on our campus that we were unable to identify. We also found that we knew, but we didn't know how important this was going to be. We had doors on our campus that required keys to lock and unlock. I mean, physical, brass keys that you had to have. So when we had responders come, we had to give other than our own police force, fire, other police departments, we had to have keys to open up all the doors to go look at. We didn't have a single, one button in a command center that you could highlight a door and lock that door. And that's what we're going to have with the governor's proposed budget on those locks. We'll have greater security. We'll have the ability to respond to an incident more effectively and faster. And we'll be able to identify the areas that would be affected and then to release those areas that we don't think are effective, and we could have eyes on those areas that we don't currently have. Does that make sense? It's critical. It's an absolute critical. And we're so happy that the governor agrees and that the legislature will hopefully agree as they vote on those bills. Sir?
The multiple buildings go up on campus, the football expansion. Is there anything that stands out in your 11 years to you that really is a great memory of things that you've helped create?
That I've upgraded. It's not the one, it's an odd one because it's kind of home to me. When I arrived here, the building I walked by the most was Samuelsson, or still is Samuelsson. And for those who have been on our campus in the last couple of years before the Samuelsson remodel, it was literally a boarded up building. We had, white plywood on the doors and the buildings, and it was really, an eyesore on our campus. And it kind of gave the message as you walk by it that, wow, there's great buildings all around it, but this is the one you saw. This was the kind of the blight on the scenery. And being able to open that building as a computational center with math and computer science and IT management in that building, and have it now one of our newest, I guess it is our newest, fanciest technological infrastructure, given the contrast that I walk by almost daily, is gratifying. And I'll have to say another one, because that question is asked by Jeff McMillan, who is also our sports announcer for football. When we had that one, I'm particularly proud of for two reasons. One is that building was funded entirely through gifts to the university. And that's the first time a major renovation like that had been done entirely with donor money. Now that's pretty special for the university, the community coming together to say, I want the students at Central to have this experience, and I'll give from my own resources to make that happen. And then for those who were there on opening day, we had, we have the best marching band, I think, on the West Coast. USC would debate me, but we're better than they are. I've heard both, and that we're way better than USC is. They march a little better, but we sound a whole lot better. When they played the Star Spangled Banner, and we had the skydivers come down trailing the American flag, and I looked around to those folks who had given to that event. They were standing next to me, and tears were running down their face. It's pretty special.
Is there anything particularly that you're going to be focused on for the next year?
Well, yes, I've set three goals for the university, and I've known I was going to step away for a while, so it's not an accident that I set these three goals this past year when I did, and those goals are for the most part very student centric. The first goal is to increase our retention rate. Central has a better than average retention rate if we compare ourselves to other universities. However, we don't think it's good enough. We would like at least 80% of our freshmen to return their sophomore year. Because those who don't return, if a student goes to another school, yeah, I regret that, but I know they're going to graduate, and that's the business that we're in. But a lot of students who drop out that freshman year don't continue. So that's someone who is not going to have that educational benefit that I talked about earlier. And I would like it to be 85%, but so that I didn't shock too many people, I said, let's make it 80%. And so we're going to work hard we already have, and it's gone up 2% last year. So it looks like it's going to go up 2% this year. So we're well on our way to the 80%. And I think we'll get that momentum going. I won't see the 80%. It'll happen a year or two after I'm sitting in the well, I'll see it, but I'll be over in Lind Hall teaching COM 100 or whatever they assign me to. So that's one of the goals. The other is diversity and inclusivity of our workforce. Central has experienced a diversification of its student body that's greater than any of the other universities in the state of Washington. It's been intentional on our part. That's where the bulk of the new high school graduates are coming from. So it's only right that we reach out to those communities. And so now about 40% of our students are formally underrepresented individuals. But our faculty and our staff do not reflect that. It does not reflect that in most of the demographic categories that we use to identify groups of students. So we're going to have an all hands effort to have our faculty and staff represent the student population. It's going to be a challenge because we don't have every year we have an opportunity to go get another crop of freshmen and transfer students. We only can hire someone when someone leaves. So it'll be a little bit slower, but Dr. Candy Cleary is developed a hiring plan, and we are seeing success in that plan. And then the third, which is a little bit less directly related to response to our students, but I know something near and dear to all of our hearts, particularly our students, is to decrease our carbon footprint, to make the university more sustainable. We've hired a sustainability coordinator. She's investigating the university where we do wonderful things, where we need to improve, and is writing a plan to how to make us more sustainable with the primary goal of reducing our carbon footprint, but that will also involve being more green in a number of ways. So we'll be working all three of those.
Can you speak to how preparing students for life on university has changed in your
I think, I don't think it's changed. I think it's become more intense. One of the things that we did on our arrival, we weren't sure when I arrived here as a community what were the distinctive elements that made Central Central, and not Eastern, not Western, not the U, not WSU. So we did a lot of self-examination, and one of the things we found about ourselves that was quite distinctive was our emphasis on experiential learning, hands-on learning. And it really doesn't matter. If you're in the music program, you're performing. You're not just learning theoretically, you're performing. You're writing compositions constantly. If you're in engineering, you're building things. You're not just studying the calculus that underlies the theories and the principles of engineering, but you're actually applying those every day. And you'll find that in every corner of the university. If you're in a research lab, you're not doing you're not doing research just for the class. You're doing research that could be published in an peer-reviewed academic journal. So noticing that about ourselves, we doubled down on those efforts. We created a slogan called "Learn it, do it, live it." The idea being that we'll give you all the opportunity to learn how to do it, but at the same time, you're going to actually do it while you're here. Whether you're doing it on campus, whether you're doing it off campus, whether you're going off to a competition to compete against other students in a math modeling contest, whatever it might be, for the sole purpose that when you leave here, you've already experienced the thing that you're going to do in your career. And we're finding that a distinct advantage in today's kind of student recruitment profile, because students want to be educated, but they also want a job and they want to live productive lives. And if you talk to employers and you ask a lot of employers, would you rather have a student from Central or a student from, fill in the other university, they increasingly are saying, I want the Central student. And you ask them why, and they said, they know how to work. I don't have to train them on how to do their jobs. They already know how to do their jobs. Our construction management students are called pick-up ready, which means we graduate from Central. Within a few days, you're leaning on a pickup, looking at blueprints, managing a construction project. And that's a distinct advantage in the job market for that student. So that, I don't know that I've transformed it, but I think we have honed it as much as as sharp as we can, and we'll continue to do so. I see people standing up in the back. One last question?
You mentioned that you made this announcement earlier than it's traditionally done.
Yeah.
Was there or is there any worry at all that there may not be a successor found? Or?
No, goodness. Who would not want to be president of Central Washington University? But that's actually a true statement. If universities are of different types, right? There's the University of Washington, Washington State Research University. Obviously, they do education, but one of their prime focus is on discovery, on research, on innovation, on developing intellectual property and graduate education. Then there are the liberal arts universities, the private institutions, for the most part, not exclusively. And then there's the Central Washington kind of university, which kind of sits between those two. We call them comprehensive universities in our jargon. And among the comprehensive universities, Central Washington University is known to be one of the best in the country. So a president who loves the mission of educating students and having that focus and having the resources that we have and the students that Central has and the faculty and staff, no, there'll be no trouble finding a replacement. So the challenge will be picking the one that we want. There'll be lots of candidates.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you.